But speaking of kids, there's some stats out there from the Hill, if we can pull this up, about how boys are trending in a certain direction and girls are trending in the complete opposite direction. And I want to have this conversation with you guys right now. So what is happening right now, if we can pull up that graph, is that high school boys are trending more conservative, but high school girls are trending more liberal. And it's becoming completely polarized. You talked about polarity a little bit earlier, Amy, where boys, here's some stats for you, 25% of 12th grade boys have identified as conservative over the last few years, while only 13% have identified as liberal. Compare that to 21% back in 2009, if you can punch in. The numbers almost are irrelevant. You see how the red has skyrocketed for boys, whereas the blue has skyrocketed in the opposite direction, plummeted for girls. Boys are going more conservative, girls are going more liberal. Here's some numbers on the girls. 30% of 12th grade girls have identified as liberal. That's up 10% from 2012. So women between 18 and 29 are more likely to identify as liberal than ever before. So here's what's happening. The boys are going this way and the girls are going this way. To use Alex and Amy's kind of a situation, the boys are going more red pill and the girls are going more feminist. How likely is this to work out in the end? Meaning,
it will.
We've had this conversation before. We said, what is the least likely that a relationship will work? If you have a different religion, if you have different ethnicity, or if you have different political affiliation. I would argue these days that different ethnicity is the last on the list these days.
Right.
Yeah.
Black guy, white girl, Asian guy, Latino, it's all relevant. We all know that our friend Shay guy here, she'll take what she can get at this point. Okay, as long as he, she, they, them got a fat ass. We know that. Okay? Religion-wise, we see, I've seen a Christian marry a Muslim, a Jew, a Buddhist, it's all good.
Yeah.
Good luck getting a MAGA Republican and a Obama feminist to get along in the same house. Good luck with all that. So when these boys and girls are trending in the wrong direction, that's in 12th grade. All of a sudden, their ideologies are going to get codified. Elections are going to happen in 2024. They're going to be as polarized as ever. So I want you to, I want some, I don't want to just go negative here. How can we bring the boys and the girls, if that's what they're into these days, together? I want your suggestions. Amy, let's start with you and we'll go around the horn here.
I'll be super fast. I think it's really natural for girls to be more liberal. I think that a lot of people start off liberal until they get a little bit wiser to things, because oftentimes the liberal ideology is in alignment with helping marginalized groups. Before you become educated and really figure out the way that impacts policy in certain areas or the possible agendas that exist behind them, of course you want to help people. That's a very normal thing until you get better educated. So it makes sense that young women are like this. Now, one thing that you mentioned in your recent interview with Zuby that I loved, you talked about the horseshoe. A lot of people who are conservative and liberal are actually really not that different. It's the people on the extremes, the polarization at the end of the day. That's where we're seeing a really big issue. It also makes sense for me that guys would trend more conservative. What do they have to relate to on the liberal front, more specifically the progressive front, now that you have the they, them gremlins and men can be women and women can be... I mean, what do young men possibly have to relate to on the liberal side? So for me, it makes perfect sense. And I think that, you know, with time, we're going to see a resolution to this, because at the end of the day, a lot of this is caricatures, the extreme right, the extreme left that are being highlighted. And I don't think it's always conducive with reality.
Well said. Alex, you're a dating coach. You've seen a million different types of relationships out there. Spin this into a positive light. How can men and women actually end up together? Because we see that people are less likely to get married, less likely to have kids. Things are trending in the wrong direction. If anything, we want America to have more kids, to be more unified. What's your advice out there?
Well, first of all, me and my girlfriend are different politically, and we love each other. We have discussions about it. It's fun. Sometimes we're like, all right, let's not talk about this for an hour. But that can't happen. I've hooked up with super conservative girls, super liberal girls. That's not necessarily a deal breaker unless they're super far gone to the extreme. I do agree with you on that. It's also a real shame that being liberal is now associated with being like a weirdo who's like super weak, and that like you're all about like using PC pronouns and shit. That's not really what liberal is, or at least not what it used to be. An old school liberal is someone who wants more like economic equality, wants to have a higher minimum wage, wants to have universal health care, wants to have, you know, less wars, more free speech, right? That's what real liberalism is. It just got kind of corrupted by all the cringe SJW lords. So yeah, I would consider myself like a more of an old school liberal, but somewhere between a libertarian and that.
Yeah, libertarian.
Yeah.
It's different to liberal, correct?
Yeah, but I would say I'm somewhere in between.
Okay.
But I'm all in favor of closing corporate tax loopholes. I'm all in favor of like, you know, getting rid of stupid wars that America always gets into, or all the massive spending on the Pentagon. I'm all pro free speech. Although now that's really become associated with the right. I don't know how that even happened, because 20 years ago was another way. But the point is that, like, yeah, I think as long as you're not like a weirdo extremist where you're like walking around in like a MAGA hat and like jerking off to Donald Trump on the other extreme.
Oh man.
It happens, believe it or not. On the other extreme, you know, you're not like a super feminist pussy. I think if you're just like a normal person and you just have certain, I guess, political positions, it shouldn't be a deal breaker. I think it's sad that nowadays a lot of people who have different political beliefs can't even associate with each other. Like when I hear like, I can't be friends with a Trump supporter, I can't be friends with a liberal, it's so cringe. I have friends from like every type of dynamic. It shouldn't matter, unless of course you're so indoctrinated, you're just like too far gone.
Okay,
Yes,
Danny,
sir.
you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, sure. So I think that, first of all, these kids are young. They're only in 12th grade. They haven't seen a lot of the real world, what it's like to work, how it's going to impact them financially, where they actually live, what state they are. I mean, I'm from California, where it's one of the most liberal states in the country. And coming from there to here, like, the aura in the air is just so different. Like, people in California are so, like, take offense to a lot of things. They're very sensitive. People here are, like, you honestly can't talk about being conservative in California without being like shunned. I think that eventually, like with the kids like leaning in polar opposite directions, I think it'll work itself out. I think they're gonna get real life experience, and people are gonna realize certain things when it comes to money, family, like politics, that people are gonna meet in the middle and make it work.
Well said. Well, looks like Slow Jam's busted out her glasses to get super smart on this one right now. So give us some 2020 vision onto how you would spin this into a positive light.
Okay, let me give you 2024 vision. So
Ooh.
what you were saying, I totally agree. Yes, they're not old enough to understand what survey they filled out. But I will say women over and over and over, and young ladies have heard that L word so much. And liberation has been tied to feminism. Liberation has been tied to getting your own degrees. Liberation has been tied to being a whore. Liberation has been tied to, of course, the girls are going to pick that. But because the girls are, I guess, being more pushed to be more liberal, which could be dangerous in some aspects if they get too far, that's what's making the guys or the dudes go the conservative route. And that's where the red and blue pill come from, and the superwoman and Superman versus wars come in and out. I do think, even if I go down the entertainment route, there's so many examples of slight liberation in music videos and movies and shows. And then you have polarizing dudes like Andrew Tate, which I'm kind of glad he exists, because it's bringing the hair back on a lot of men's chests. You know, it's pretty good. But I'm not surprised, because like I said, there's this super influence of the open freedom, when I feel like it's really not that much freedom. It's really, I don't know if there's a word for like non-empowering, but being completely open and liberal is not something you should look for. And I think it's also kind of the traits of the gender. It's a masculine, conservative thing to have discipline, and then it's more of a liberal, open, creative thing, like you said, like women to just be more fluctuating with. There's no solid form of what they should be, even though there should be one to maintain the control.
Well said. Dea.
So when I see that chart, it actually kind of gives me hope for the future, because that means like men are really waking up. And and you know, I follow the Bible, so they're the leaders of the household. They're the leaders of the family unit. So if the men are conservative, that means we have a bright future.
Well said. Look at you. Shake, what, you want to give us some input right here?
Yeah, I pretty much.
Because you and your girlfriend are probably trending liberal, and that's totally okay.
Yeah, but I do have faith that it will, you know, come to a balance. I think that it's needed, actually, the separation and you know, different ways of direction, because like what everybody else was saying, it just creates balance, like in the views of men and women, because there's a lot of pressure on women, I think, and so liberal is like needed, and yeah, pretty much what everybody
This is
else
where
said.
men need a man. Nat, final word, and then I'll wrap up.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with Dea on this. I think it's actually, in a way, kind of a good thing. It's allowing men to really wake up and have that masculinity be supported. I think there was that phase where it was kind of being shunned down, and that's why we are kind of where everyone is right now. You know, at the end of the day, history repeats itself. We're going to somehow come back together eventually at one point. And I will say this, you know, men also did get someone like an Andrew Tate to kind of come in and be like, hey, wake up. I don't think today women have a specific example of a woman that's, you know, maybe she was more liberal and then she's turned conservative. You see a lot of celebrities, they really may not even talk about what their views are and roles and certain things because they want to protect their, you know, identity. But I think if all it's going to take really is a strong female voice in that space to really maybe make a change publicly and say, ladies, be a lady, you know, like men, keep stepping up. You know, that's literally what it's like, but that's so important because men, when Andrew Tate hit the market, all these guys are like, yeah, actually my wife does make me feel feminine. Actually, yeah, you do this. I think women today, they need that. And I think eventually it will come together, but men keep being masculine and, you know, lead the household.
I'll give a quick synopsis here, and then we'll do the happy ending. What was that? Is everything okay?
Motorcycle.
Okay, gotcha.
I
was a man's man out there.
I was going to say, go fight him, Adam. Go fight
him. No, I'm good. Keep it stoic. Keep it cool. But, Day, I appreciate what you had to say. I'll tell you a story real quick. So it was about a year ago. I'm out with a buddy. He's out with a girl. And she has some girlfriends. And me and one of the girlfriends kind of hit it off. And we end up having dinner. We got them some drinks. And treated this girl like an absolute gentleman. Paid for dinner, drinks, like had a great, she's like, I can't wait to see you again. Awesome, cool. She's like texting me, cool, great. I wake up the next day and this is the first text I get. I wake up and it says, so you fuck with Tate? I'm like, that's the first text I see.
Oh, man.
I'm like, what? She goes, yeah, I saw on your Instagram, because I just interviewed Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Patrick and I flew to, I think it was Madrid at this point.
Yeah, I remember this.
There was a picture of Tate on there. I was like, yeah. I interviewed him.
You know, it's weird.
Yeah, I was like, she's like, well, I can't be with anybody that is like respects him. I was like, oh, well, why is that? She's just like, because you know, treat women like property. Basically, I was like, excuse me. Did you not just have a beautiful evening last night? Did I not just pay for everything? Did I not just send you an Uber home? Did I not completely take care of you, provide, protect, and respect? And all of a sudden, this is the first thing that I get in the morning, like, fuck you. Okay? And I was like, you know what? Lose my number. I didn't even text her back again. Because this lack of respect that women have for men who look up to men or friends with men who are masculine. And it's actually disrespectful. I interviewed a guy called Daryl Davis, and this is one of the more transcendent interviews I've ever done. Daryl Davis is a black musician that lives in the South, that plays in all the Southern gin joints and jazz joints, and he's out there, and it's a very racist area where he's at. But this guy is such a G and just such an absolute amazing person that he sort of befriends KKK members. See if you can find a picture of Daryl Davis. Befriends KKK members and treats them with love and respect. Here he is right here, Daryl Davis right here.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Punching on the one where he's shaking the Ku Klux Klan.
That's my boy.
Punching on that. He befriends these guys in the KKK, and you know what he does? He kills them with kindness.
Wow.
He basically does not say, fuck you, fuck you. He says, tell me why you think that I'm lesser than you. Explain to me. Let me buy you a beer. Let me give you a little insight. And he sits down with these guys, and he's convinced hundreds of KKK guys to leave the KKK, and each one, he goes, when you're ready, give me your cloak and your top hat, whatever the hell you call that thing. And when you're ready to leave the KKK, I'm here for you because I believe in being respectful, and I'm going to treat you with respect, and I want you to treat me with respect, even though we have completely opposite opinions. And I'm interviewing this guy, and it was supposed to be an hour interview. I end up interviewing him for 3 hours.
Wow.
Because after an hour, I was like, yeah, I think we got to wrap it. He's like, I got more time, don't worry. I was like, this is amazing. But I learned from him that as different as your opinions may be, you have to at least respect the other person. Now, I don't care where you're at. I don't care if you're voting Republican. I don't care if you're voting Democrat, if you're conservative, if you're liberal. I can assure you that a black man who's a musician in the South and members of the KKK have way less in common than you guys as fellow Americans. So if this guy can treat KKK members with respect, I encourage you to treat other people on the other side of the aisle with more respect if you disagree with them. That's all I'll say about that. Whoa, whoa, whoa. If you like that one, click right here to watch the full SOSCAST. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.